of the advantages of being censored, such as being disabled from commenting, of having my comments deleted, being shadow banned, is one takes precautions. One can take screenshots after the comment has been posted, or one could curate the comments. So my routine is to comment on under a video and cut and paste my comments onto a document that I will transfer to my blog. Those of you who listen to my streams will find that in the description there is a link to the timestamp. So, and this is designed to allow people who are short of time to understand what I'm saying without having to listen to the whole stream. But these days you have AI that more or less tells you what the stream is about and also gives you timestamps, which is very good of YouTube. But obviously their highlights, their interpretation will be different to mine. But it's useful to have my own comments curated by myself to have a record of the things I said that have been deleted. And so sometimes I operate in this twilight area of I still see my comments, but I can't see it on the account, the other account that I'm using. So that's how I know I'm shadow banned. Because the idea of shadow banning is it's really a trick to get you to waste your time. You post and you think people are reading it, but actually nobody is. Perhaps not even the YouTuber concerned is reading it. I'm not quite sure how it works. I never shadow ban anyone. I never delete anyone's comments really, and I'm interested in having my ideas challenged by facts and logic, and nobody ever does. They accuse me of all kinds of things, and when I ask them to give further and better particulars, they go quiet, like Olsen. So today, for some reason, he's accused me of being racist. What have I said that is racist? I actually don't know. I never say certain people are the way they are because of the colour of their skin. I always try to explain things from a historical standpoint, which is also cultural. And I suppose that gets confused with race these days. Because Christianity is still white, right? It's still white, even though there are quite a lot of brown and yellow and black Christians, but white people want to think of Christianity as white. And actually, they're not even supposed to be racist because Christianity is a universal and imperial religion, and the Quran explicitly states that Muslims are not allowed to be racist, and Jews, when they are accused of being racist, says, well, we are obliged to take converts. So I guess it's the Christians being hypocritical again. They're the ones who cannot be fair to their enemies. They always have to cheat and while pretending to be kind and caring. But the consequence of all their lies and hypocritical behavior and pretending to be nice is I now take the precaution of curating my comments. So it would be a nice contrast to have a look at the video that that I've embedded in my blog, and read the comments. You can read under my blog and look at the comments. In the original video that you can no longer read, either because YouTube AI has deleted it or never allowed it to be posted in the first place, or the YouTuber in question has deleted it because they're afraid. They're afraid of something or other. They're afraid of facts and logic, or they're afraid of their online internet friends complaining about certain comments. I don't really know, or perhaps it's instinctive. It's not nice about so and so, so I'm not going to allow it to be published, and I'm going to call it ad hominem, as Olson does. So he's basically saying his mates cannot be criticized, his precious online internet friends. And so he's going to, well, do whatever they want him to do since they are so precious to him. And all this lying of, oh, I won't ever censor you. And then all these constant, no ad hominem, please. So his mates won't suffer the discomfort of being criticized. I don't operate like that. If you can't take the truth, then you don't deserve to be my internet friend. What is the point of having internet friends who can't take the truth? You're on the internet. Why are you on the internet? You want to talk to people who agree with you or disagree with you. And maybe you don't want to talk to your real life friends or your family members because you don't want to upset them. So you go online. But your internet friends should be disposable. It's your social problem if you even internet friends who lie, who are hypocrites, who can't face the truth, who are getting you to think and behave like them. So just because Olson wants to be with them, because I guess in real life he hasn't got that many friends, and he now has to pander to his new internet friends who can't take the truth, who can't take it on the chin like men. So I don't know why he accused me today of being racist. I have no idea. And I've emailed him, but I'm sure I won't get a response from him until weeks or months later, because that's his way. And then he adopts his dishonest practice of, oh, I've already answered your question, when he hasn't and has never dealt with it. But anyway, interestingly, recently he said, I believe in the Trinity because it's so absurd. So he's adopted Tertullian, who said the same thing. It's absurd, and I believe it. I believe it because it's absurd, because I want to show that I'm not a Jew or a Muslim who are humble enough to rely on facts and logic. I rely on my Christian imperialism and my bigger bombs and my bigger army and my bigger navy to ignore you or bomb you and invade you. So, well, that's the way it's going to be. But I think Christians will have heard the expression, those who live by the sword die by the sword. Olson. So if you think being friends with people like Brett is going to make you a better man or improve your standing in society, you would be mistaken. It would be a shame to be formerly an honest man to become the hypocrite that Brett has probably always been. Fancy lying to yourself and always doing it and carrying on and being friendly and apparently caring about the feelings of everyone like a nanny, and then ignoring truth, deleting facts and logic. Birds of a feather flock together. Is Olsen a kind of bird that prefers lies and nonsense? He's an honest man, or he tries to be, but perhaps one day he'll give it up just to be at one with his internet friends, because he fears facts and logic, facts and logic. So, what have they done recently? Well, I have to deal with them, sometimes deleting my comments, sometimes shadow banning me, unshadow banning me, blocking me, then unblocking me. And then so the best way of dealing with it is just to curate as many of the videos that I've commented on. And also, if you're taking an interest, you can find out what they don't like by reading my blog and knowing which comments are no longer visible on the original video. So that's what these censors and liars and deleters of comments have caused to happen to themselves. But I am really a little cross about wasting 90 minutes of my time talking to the two ladies of the TLC who deigned to talk to me, who said they wanted to understand me better and wanted to ask me questions like, "Tell us about the home you grew up in." And I did. I gave a few personal details. I explained where I was coming from, and then heard, to my dismay, towards the end of the week, that it was decided that they couldn't be seen to be even engaging with me. What's their problem? Who knows? Just feminine nervousness, feminine risk aversion, the desire not to offend their friends and family who are unmarried parents. But watching Chris Howard's video yesterday talking to Chad, it occurred to me that Chad is the walking wounded of the matriarchy. He told us he came from a broken home. He told us he had problems with authority. He told us he's been in prison. And therefore he is the walking wounded of the matriarchy. And actually I want to help him, and actually I'd like to talk to him, because if I talk to the people most in need of my advice, I would actually be helping them, rather than two women who would rather pretend that they never spoke to me and that the 90 minutes of my life that I gave to them were not worth posting on her YouTube channel. And of course, it's a fraud, isn't it? It was just two women hoping to get stuff about me and then and then not publish it. Why? Yes, we're back to feminine risk aversion, but the point is, their men are the victims of the matriarchy. And the matriarchy is about lowering standards of education and behavior and lowering the quality and numbers of men of fighting age and women of childbearing age, making them less marriageable and making marriage a less attractive proposition. So really, I think it's my advantage. Really, I think people will be wondering what terrible thing I said. I was asked questions about how I'm going to manage it, and I explained in detail. The conversation was, well, as far as I could tell, friendly, pleasant, open, but suddenly it was decided that such a conversation with me will must not be displayed on the channel of one of these women for reasons best known to themselves. I think it's necessary to explain what the problem is. If only for the sake of men like Chad, I hope eventually he will be able to talk to me on his channel. Because if the if the so-called top dogs of TLC refuse to talk to me, refuse to engage with me because they continuation of a religion that should be considered the parachute that didn't open, let's call it that. The parachute that keeps its wearers falling to their deaths of the Roman Empire, the absolute monarch of Christendom. They keep falling to their deaths, and these ladies want to hide this fact, want to obscure this fact from their fellow men. And this, of course, reminds me of this verse in the Quran, chapter 64, verse 14, that says, your women and your children can be enemies to you. Now, isn't that wise advice? Because it's obviously true. We could be our own worst enemy. I'm sure at various times in our lives we were told that. I've been told that. You're your own worst enemy. Or friends of mine would complain that another friend had said to this person, so and so told me that I'm my own worst enemy. I suppose collectively, an entire nation, an entire civilization, an entire empire could be their own worst enemy. And this is actually my thesis. So if if they were properly mindful of their religion, they would be they would be doing the equivalent of what a maintenance engineer would be doing, checking for leaks and holes and defects and vulnerabilities. They would be doing that. They wouldn't be hiding these vulnerabilities and not discussing it. So I'm afraid it's true that women can be enemies to men. I don't even know why Meghan decided, well, perhaps it's the two of them agreeing that let's play it safe. Let's not publish this conversation. I mean, we did try our best to find out, stuff about Claire. No, she told us a few little things, and it's not that interesting. She didn't exactly break down in tears and tell us what a terrible childhood she had, and maybe she went to prison, and then, then that would be entertaining. That would be, viewership generating. I just explained how the problem could be dealt with what laws and what methods, and they're not interested. Because they're not interested in solutions, they're not interested in principles, and you have to forgive them for their anxiety, their fear. It doesn't pay these women to take chances. But for men who have nothing to lose, perhaps they will say something, enable a conversation, discuss the beliefs and the intentions of the founding fathers without dissipating into a hiss of feminism. And also these women hurt themselves. They hurt any female offspring they may have. Well, they even hurt their male offspring, really, because women not being marriageable should not be married, and men not being marriageable should not be married. And then, of course, it's the demographics and the vicious circle of a labour shortage, who are underachieving, incompetent, corrupt, lying to themselves, and all because of the don't rock the boat type people. And of course, they include women of a certain age. I can't see any point in Meghan not helping me, really, but I don't know. Perhaps she's been influenced by the likes of Brett and Scott and all the rest of them, and saying it's a white person thing, it's a Christian thing. We whites and Christians should stick together and stick it to this secular Quranism person who doesn't know anything. Do I really not know anything? I think I know quite a lot about Western history, all things considered. And if I got anything wrong, please challenge me. I keep asking you, please challenge me. And they never do. They just say, oh, just don't talk to her. No particular reason. Oh, she's a bit most dangerous people. She's a bit dangerous. Oh, well, just better not. Better not, eh? Better not. But you're only hurting yourselves if you're not solving the problem ASAP. The war machine has been started. It is grinding towards you, and higher taxes and fewer freedoms and more cowardly men and more promiscuous women. Or even if they're not, they would be social retards, or just not making the best of themselves, shall we say. Having problems with authority because they grew up in fatherless homes. What is the problem with accepting this fact that there's a lot of data supporting the increase in illegitimacy globally even? Why should there be any shame in acknowledging that this is a social disease. Bastardy is a social disease. Now it seems that the problem has metastasized, and now I guess it's got to the brain where any moral consciousness might lie. So pseudo Risto, what you can't you just read Washington's speech on your own? I've read it a few times. I've done videos about it. Can't you, as an American, read it for yourself? Yeah, it's a stupid wheat and tears crap that Christians always bring up. And I think, yeah, you. What does it say? Do you weed? Do you do your weeding or not? What does it say? It's all this waffle. Oh, maybe we shouldn't do the weeding. I mean, what the fuck are they on about? It's always this yes and no and maybe and we don't know and mumbo jumbo and hocus pocus. Wheat and tares. As far as I understand it, you separate the wheat and tares. The parable of the wheat and tares, Matthew 13 to 24, 13, chapter 13, 24 to 30, 36 to 43, is a biblical teaching by Jesus illustrating the coexistence of good and evil in the world until the end of the age. In the story, an enemy sows tares, weeds, likely darnel, which resemble wheat in early growth, among wheat in the field, and the owner instructs servants to let both grow together until the harvest, to avoid uprooting the wheat. This is such shit advice, isn't it? Christianity just seems to be full of shit advice. Symbolism. The field represents the world, and the wheat are the sons of the kingdom. True believers are tares of the sons of the wicked one. False believers are evil, and the enemy is Satan. The harvesters are angels, and the harvest is the end of the age. That was sensible. Jew or Muslim would say, well, we all have the evil inclination. Nobody's perfect. And we should obey God's laws. But if you're a Christian and you try to work out which of the laws in the Torah apply to Gentiles, you would be accused of being a Judaizer. And this could be fatal to your career as a theologian in more unashamedly anti-Semitic times. So that deals with this stupid wheat and tares, crap. Obviously, if the enemy is within, then address the enemy within. Stop being so neurotic. Know what rules you're supposed to obey and obey them. And if you can't, at least admit that you can't. Not, idolatry, is it really idolatry to worship an executed blasphemer? Maybe, we don't know, we don't care, we don't like it, we don't wanna, you can't make us. What video was censored? Well, on last Monday, on the 13th of July, I was talking to Stephanie Christos and Megan Goldsby, and I was happy to have it go up live, and then it was, we don't want it to go live. We might, inhibited about saying things. Okay, so, and then, well, anyway, the long and short of it is that they don't want it out. And did I misspeak? I remember making a point of not sitting at my computer, being full of coffee. I made sure that I was lying down and relaxed and using my phone to speak in a relaxed way. I don't think I said anything wrong. And if I did, I'm happy to admit it, but you may never hear it because it's not going to be published. It's not going to be displayed because apparently I said something wrong or they realise, oh my God, we shouldn't even be seen to be talking to Claire because, ooh, she's this or that or whatever. No, I'm not actually complaining about anyone being racist, right? I'm not. I'm not. I I specialised in talking to British nationalists and white nationalists before I came to the TLC. So it's water off a duck's back. It's not a problem. So I know, white people like accusing each other of being racist, and to be fair, so do black people accuse each other of being racism because it's part of buying into the political orthodoxy of um, liberalism, and hate speech. Of course, it is heretical to liberalism to be racist. But actually, to be fair, Jews, Christians, and Muslims are not supposed to be racist. But I think it's just Christians thinking, they can get away with it. And then they start talking about white supremacy. And of course, are they so dumb they don't know that so-called white supremacy is also liberalism, right? And liberalism came about because of Western imperialism giving Westerners imperial supremacy. So whatever these white nationalists think is the source of white supremacy, it comes from empire. So I don't even know if they understand that or not. So no, I'm not. I'm not. No, it's Morty or whatever his name is now. Frank, I think. Frank Dolly. That's what he calls him. He's the one always accusing PVK and TLC of white grievance culture. But I don't want to be doing that because I'm saying, look, I'm really trying to help you guys. And I'm saying, I made secular Quranism just for you guys. I I gift wrapped it. I put a pretty ribbon on it. I sent it to you, and you're refusing to open it because you want to think it's a box of scorpions and snakes. But it's a box of facts and logic. Pseudo-risk. Why not talk in private and clarify instead of going? No, no, no. It's all been done. We've had the email exchanges. I accept. I accept that they're not going to publish it. I can't make Megan publish it, right? I'm just leaving it to you guys to ask. What terrible thing I said that they can't be seen to be even talking about it. Maybe they're thinking, we should have objected to it a bit more and we should have taken a more critical attitude, but they were, just listening to the answers and um, actually being all right about it. And maybe they thought, oh dear, we should have, taken a position and hated on her more, but we didn't really have the arguments, and so we just let it go. And oh dear, people will think we support her ideas just by talking to her. And maybe by popular demand, it will be published one day. So Pseudo Risto, he's talking about tacos again. I mean, it just means that he can't be taken seriously, and I don't know why he wants to talk like that. He's obviously an intelligent man, but I guess he's scared of something, and when intelligent men talk nonsense, it's because because they're scared. I didn't mention the prison thing. I mean, this is public knowledge. If you know Chad of TLC, I mean, he's already said he's been in prison before, and it was just mentioned, I think, on yesterday's stream, on the Chris Howard stream, and Chris was just saying, oh yes, you must know about this sort of thing because you've already been in prison. So, um, and Chad was saying he had problems with authority, and I was saying, yeah, yeah, and then he said, I come from a broken home, and I'm saying, yes, a lot of boys have a problem with authority if they were brought up in fatherless homes, and this should be stopped because convicted prisoners overwhelmingly come from broken homes. So call it out, girls, instead of pretending that I never said this thing or that he never even spoke to me. No, it's not my prison thing, it's Chad's prison thing. Oh, here we go again. Oh, Claire, just talk about knitting and cooking and painting and art. And I mean, obviously, I'm using social media platforms to, unload and tell you exactly what I feel. And if I'm, happy, I don't feel the need to, boast about it and say how lucky I am to, you know, oh, we want to see the human side of you. Ooh, we just want to see you stroking your cat the way Brett is always stroking his cat. We just want to know that you're human. No, 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 no. Just digest what I'm saying to you and work out from your education and experience and your graduation and the studies that led to your graduation whether I am speaking the truth or talking nonsense. Why can't you do that? Why can't you do that? And anyway, pick and choose. You're the one using a fake avatar, right? You're using the fake avatar. I am a real person. You can find pictures of me on the internet. I am known. I am a real person. Paul van der Klee has met me twice. So there's no point, thinking, oh, we don't know if she's actually a real person. Yes, I'm a real person. I've been around for a while. I guess you just want to, watch me strumming my guitar like Chad and saying, like, I don't like it, like I don't. No, like I don't. Strum, strum, strum. That's what you want. And me cry, 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 and then you think, oh poor Claire, oh poor thing, we have to be nice to her and encourage her to be to come to Christianity and worship Jesus and all that crap. Yeah, you'd love to watch me knitting or cooking and crap like that. Just fuck all that and just listen to me, pick and choose, and maybe use your real name and say what I'm saying or ask what I'm asking in real life instead of being the chicken that you are. Oh, yawn God. No, it won't involve millions of deaths. Why would it? Why would it? Now, if people higher status than random members of TLC who won't give their name were to ask me non-stupid questions, well, it would be on a roll. And actually, I don't even want to talk to PVK. I want to talk to Tucker Carlson. But, but PVK could be ushering me towards Tucker Carlson. A lot of the TLC people, it's like, oh, we don't really want to talk. Oh, we wish you'd leave us alone. And the best way of making you leave you alone is by pushing me upwards towards Tucker. I don't really want to talk with two morons who pretend to be even more moronic than they are, who pretend not to understand, who can't even process the difference between matriarchy and patriarchy because you're afraid of your wife. Yeah, you're afraid of your wife. So I'm saying, okay, maybe talk about the abolition of no fault divorce, but you're too afraid of even saying that because you're terrified of your wife and lost your First Amendment right. You've lost your First Amendment rights and you're too ashamed to admit it, right? That is the reality of the position of Western men. And the women who could, just by allowing, just by posting the video, they could, yeah, they could do, they could push me towards Tucker. Then I'll leave you alone, right? I'll happily. I don't want to be bumping along at the bottom with people who keep pretending to be more moronic than they are. I want to engage with people who will actually present me with with real scenarios. So Yon God, being the atheist and Islamophobia will say, assumes that people will die. Really? How? Why? Tell me about this scenario where all these people are going to die. They're not going to die. It's very simple. We just have to have a different narrative and a different identity and acknowledge our mistakes. Are people going to die? I suppose there's a few people who say, I would rather die than admit that I was wrong. And I suppose, Yon God, you are one of them. Who's Jeff P? I have read the original text. Okay, I'm still not getting any sensible comments. So, pseudo Risto, are you prepared to have a conversation? Are you ready now? Have you read Washington's farewell speech? No. Don't just tell me to read it again. You read it, and maybe you talk about it on your channel, unless you're too scared to. Okay, let me have a look at Pick and Choose's profile. So who is he? Well, it's some anonymous man with 8 subscribers. What's the point? Yeah, so you show your face, it's an ordinary face. You never say anything important enough for anyone to want to track you down or even comment on your videos. So what's the point? What is the point? So yeah, maybe ask Megan, like, oh, what terrible thing did Claire say? Anybody who has listened to me will probably not find anything I said to be different to my usual content. So I'm just guessing that, Megan getting friendly with all these broken beta losers is being influenced by them. Like, oh, you mustn't talk to her. Maybe talk to her to get, shit out of her about, oh, her background and whatever, and we can use it against her and whatever. So use it. Or just deal with me on the validity and the soundness of my arguments. Just why not do that? How many people are there in TLC? How many of them are graduates? There's OG Rose. He can maybe talk about it. He's this intellectual that Paul Vanderklay is always promoting, and this person who always talks about this sacred social order. And all these intellectuals, why don't they just debunk secular Quranism? Why don't they? Because they're just Christian mediocrities, right? Well, I genuinely like talking about ideas, pick and choose. Why not invite me to your channel and I'll tell you about my favorite things? How does it go, that song? Something about kittens and whiskers and snowdrops, and I just like telling you exactly what I think. That's what I love to do. I keep doing that, don't I? It would help your main messages carry better. No. The thing is, look, I'm just saying what I want. You're free to take my ideas and discuss them, but you don't even dare discuss my ideas amongst yourselves because you're afraid. You're afraid of each other. That's so pathetic. Imagine, some broken beta male being afraid of other broken beta males. It's pathetic. So, to round up, I'll just remind you that the Quran is really excellent advice for men who are afraid of their wife and are so afraid that they dare not say, even to themselves in the quiet of the night, how afraid they are. And they could solve the problem by talking about abolishing no fault divorce, but they're too afraid to say even that. They're too afraid. They're so afraid they're afraid to say how afraid they are, even to themselves. So that is a pretty deep level of neurosis and psychosis. And that's why they would rather blame everyone, Jews, Muslims, non whites. And I'm saying it's because of Christianity. It has utterly failed your absolute monarchs. that your ancestors had to live under, and now it's failing you, and you cling to it because you think it's an identity worth holding to. Now, if I lost my memory, if I forgot who I am, can't remember my parents or my friends or anyone, I would like to think that I remain capable of preferring facts and logic to lies and nonsense. That some instinct of survival would make me not pretend to worship the Trinity. And thank goodness I was never forced to worship the Trinity and forced to believe in the ridiculous lies makes that makes people claiming to be Christian. Let me begin the sentence. There's a lot of convoluted reasoning about why we should hold on to the religion of our ancestors. So you could attack somebody by saying, well, you're just being a chauvinist. It hasn't done your ancestors any good, has it, Aztec person or, you know, person who is a headhunter in Borneo or, some primitive tribes person. But I think people, if you ask them in a language they understand, ask them, what religion would you like? If you had to choose another religion and you weren't afraid of your parents and your family and your friends being Islamophobic or disapproving, what religion would you choose? And I think the answer would be Islam, simply because it does have the highest status book of rules, and you would have to acknowledge that even if you don't believe in God. Oh, thank you for all the comments. So pick and choose is just, let's be nice, everybody be nice. It hasn't got anybody anywhere because being nice means not getting to the point, not saying what you mean, and all these morons don't get it, right? They don't get it. Oh, an interesting question from Pseudo Risto. Look, there are practically no alpha males in TLC. The broken beta losers, right? And PVK, is the alpha male. It's his idea, right? It's his idea. And he's a leader. And there are a few, characters, shall we say, in TLC, and they play a part and they represent a certain archetype. But an alpha male is basically a leader of beta males. So, of course, PVK is the alpha male, but there are principled alpha males and unprincipled ones. Now, why would beta males choose an alpha male? Because, obviously they want the best person in their group of males to be their leader. I mean, they wouldn't want, some stammerer and stutterer or imbecile and ugly, short person. They want somebody tall. And PVK is tall. And, someone winsome, charming, good at bullshitting people, good at coming up with ideas of how to confuse the already confused and waste their time, but still make them feel good and make them think, oh, we're so intellectual. We can discuss theology without arguing with each other. We're not Trump voters. We're middle class and American and graduates. And, we know how to dance around words and show that we're middle class and educated, and that's the most important thing, and we mustn't be fighting each other and saying what we mean in case, well, we start fighting each other. And we certainly cannot take Christianity seriously, because the moment you start taking anything about Christianity literally, you'll be up in arms, fighting each other and refighting the wars of the European wars of religion. That's what's going to happen if you take Christianity seriously. So it's all this fake piety and these sort of sacred social order and propositional tyranny, and it's like, what do you mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's just a time wasting neologism to make all these pseudo people, these pseuds, these pseudo intellectuals, make them feel that the you're doing something improving on YouTube, and that they're talking to other educated middle class people who have some who are capable of independent thought. That is the thing, that they think they're capable of independent thought, when the opposite is the case. Free cast. How are the white males in the UK supposed to trust you not to be super subverting them by pushing the literal ideology that is threatening them right now, and by insulting them for not accepting it? Well, there's no point being nice to them, because they don't understand. If you're nice to them, they'll think that they're doing something right. And I'm saying, logic. I do tell them when I get a chance that there's only one Abrahamic God, and they can't deny that. They cannot deny that there's only one Abrahamic God, and therefore all the Abrahamic religions compete with each other in saying that their way to heaven is the best. And really, it's only Christianity and Islam, because although there are sometimes converts to Judaism, they are very few and not likely to start a movement. So I'm telling them that Christianity is a problem. That's what I'm saying. And a lot of them have, independently of me, reached that conclusion. That's why you get so many pagans and white nationalism, because they have decided they hate Jews, they hate Muslims, they hate themselves and their ancestors for worshipping a Jew. So they're rejecting all the Abrahamic religions, and therefore all the organized religions. And they seem to think that they can start some pagan pantheon. So they really haven't got a choice. I mean, they don't talk to me because they already know my arguments. Who is an alpha male anyway? There can be good alpha males and bad alpha males. What you want is a principled leader. And Christianity has no codified principles, as I keep saying, and you don't seem to care. Principles? Who wants principles? They're just a hostage to fortune. Right? That's how most people, theism and I, think like that. And if you're Christian, you're you're already an atheist and a nihilist because you don't care that it's idolatry. Pick and choose says, if alpha, beta, etc. Males were a real thing, it wouldn't work if every male was an alpha. That's not logical. No, I'm not saying every male is an alpha. I mean, we women already know that not every male is an alpha male. You're straw manning me. I'm saying, all I'm saying is an alpha male is leader of beta males, and beta males choosing a leader ought to have certain criteria to make it easier for them to choose a principal leader, and a way of ensuring or increasing the likelihood of having a principled alpha male leader is to have a religion, right? So you have a religion, and then you can work out which person, which man amongst you is the most successful. So it would help if the your official moral system supports religion, supports marriage, I should say, and you're very firm about the meaning of marriage, and it's not for gay people, right? You have to be very firm about that, and PVK is not firm about that at all. He probably thought that the others, the hardliners who refuse to get along on the subject of gay marriage are fools. That is what I pick up from what what he said on the subject. So I guess PVK is not particularly principled, and his agenda really is to derive an income from his YouTube channel, and this means collecting lots of broken beta losers who might be prepared to pay for, to be a member of his channel. And it's not to tell them truths that they are too degenerate to take. He's not going to be telling them anything they don't want to hear because he might lose subscribers and live viewers. So he's treading the thin line between appearing to be relevant, appearing to be alpha, but not really saying anything too dangerous. So I'm too dangerous to be talking to him because I'm saying Christianity is kaput, and the real religion now is feminism and liberalism, and they both promote sexual liberation from the rules of marriage and good parenting, and that is why you are suffering from degeneracy, because you as a group are more likely to suffer from the social diseases of illegitimacy, which I guess Megan and Stephanie don't want to be seen to be discussing. You must ask them, why not? So you are straw manning me. I really don't know why you feel the need to do that. Fancy not acknowledging that even broken beta losers have a leader and might want them every now and then. Yeah, go and tell the girls never to release it. But I'm saying you're working against your own interests, right? But maybe it's because the real reason why you don't want marriage to be supported by government is because you already know you're unmarriageable and you don't want to get married, and you don't want married parents to be privileged over you because you already are an unmarried parent, or you're already gay, or you just don't want children. Joe is a dwarf and Sartori is a hobbit. Very true. And he's very boring, is Joe. But he did say something of interest, and it did make me want to watch the Odyssey, and it did strike me that all the men who must be fuming that Helen is being played by a black woman refuse to say that. The insults and indignities will not cease, really. And I'm telling you what the problem is, and you're all pretending not to understand because you're doing the who me. It's above my pay grade, and this is what Brett likes to say. It's above my pay grade. Okay, it's above your pay grade, but whose pay grade is it? Is it PVK's pay grade? Is it, or is he just here to run his YouTube channel and feed you time wasting ideas that will never help you solve your problems? And if any one of us steps out of line, he will be saying, "We're not the kind of people who talk about that kind of thing. And you better not be talking about that kind of thing if you want to be welcome to TLC." I've seen him use that line. Okay. Teo wants to come on. Aren't you at Speaker's Corner today? Shall I sing my favourite things? Then maybe my bad singing will attract a lot of people. Yeah, I have to do something, stupid and bad, and then people will come. But if I know what I'm talking about and I'm talking sense, everybody will run away because that's how it is, right? You want me to be broken too. Misery loves company. Misery and incompetence. Low status. I don't know who you are. Who's Nico? Hi, Teo.
Hi, Claire. Another Sunday rant.
Oh, a what? Sorry, I didn't catch it. What you
Another
said?
Sunday, another rant from you, I see.
Well, it doesn't have to be Sunday. I do it all the time.
And I know who that is, and I know who Nico is, and they've been trying to get you on that server for a while. So I think you were there once. If you're interested, I'll send you their Discord server.
Yeah, go on. What are they about?
They're very anti the niceness of TLC, similarly to you, but they're also very pro-Catholic, unlike you. So, and I think your conversation with E. Michael Jones might be of interest to them as well. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, I hope so. Um, did you listen to my last conversation with him?
Absolutely not. I've not listened to a single one of your conversations with him.
Oh, I would have thought that as a Christian, you might,
I can't be
want to
interested in
know.
every Christian you interact with, Claire.
Well, I don't really. Well, aren't you? Isn't the TLC Christian? You're kind of dissing your own group.
No, I'm saying I can't keep up with you. You're eternally online and talking to a lot of people. So, but E. Michael Jones is not someone I've got any interest in any outside of. his memes.
Well, yes, because I don't think people understand what he's saying. I'm trying to tell him. It's like, I'm sure most of the things you say fly over people's heads, and they just know you don't like Jews, and and that's it. I mean, I think I'm the only nerd who actually bothers to look up his references.
And are you in alignment with his Jewish JQ thesis?
No, no, I keep telling him, like, don't say Jews, say neocon, and he says, no, no, the
Oh, you're
opposite.
okay. You're using the Tucker Carlson line of neocons and Christian Zionists instead of going for the Jews.
No, well, I think Jews are being set up. Everybody thinks, oh, they're so clever and so cunning. It's like, no, no, they're being, kind of sent to fight and die for American imperial interests. But of course, in the meantime, they're going to be bigged up, and everybody will hate them because they will be, seen to enjoy Jewish privilege, and allowed to call everyone Nazi if they, don't agree with Zionism. And it's just an extra layer of protection for the establishment who wants to keep Israel going as an American colony. And the dissident right, freaks out really, because that's a kind of heresy for them too.
How long did you spend with them? The dissident right, that is.
Well, actually, I spent years with talking to them before I came to TLC, and then I went away again, and now I've come back.
The prodigal daughter returns.
Well, because ultimately, I think TLC are basically the highest status people I can get hold of, really.
Really? I
Because
think you think too highly of TLC. I know.
no, no, I've been around, and everybody says, "Oh, she doesn't just troll us; she does troll, other groups of people." But at least with TLC, they want to think of themselves as nice and normal and Christian and Middle America and that kind of thing, and they show their faces, and and they're happy to talk about their own lives. And that's a good thing, because then he thinks, oh yeah, the real people, they're not some stupid avatar, using different identities.
Yeah, I don't think you can be accused of not of hiding or being a secret identity. Enough people have met you enough times that you can be forgiven for not showing your camera every single time or having a avatar for a face.
Yes, I think so.
Nonetheless,
I mean,
I do want to get back to your rant about the reason, the conspiracy about why Claire is being shadow banned by the girls and the shadow matriarchy and all of that.
go on.
Well, I think it's way more fun and beneficial for you that it never comes out because that feeds into your conspiracy about the TLC and PVK and all of the other elites not wanting to broadcast your idea because it's so dangerous and it's so catchy and it's just if only these stupid Christians would just get out of the way, they know how powerful it is and it could change the world. So it's better for you. If it comes out, 50 people will see it, a few comments here and there, and yeah, so I think it's better for you never comes out.
Oh, I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind not getting them. I mean, what I've noticed recently, I hear people repeating a version of my ideas back at me, and I think it's a good sign. I mean, obviously
Look, can
my
you give an example of someone doing that?
hmm?
Can you
Pardon.
give an example of someone repeating your ideas back to you?
Oh, I mean the recent explosion of talking about politics on TLC actually. Um, I mean, you could say, that they finally reached their limit of not talking about politics, and JD Vance being on, Joe Rogan kind of did it for them, and they all want to talk about it now. I mean, Neil Daedalus, he did do a stream, and then he unlisted it because he wants to play it safe, kind of thing. And it's like there is no safe place. We have to choose a side, and we have to consider whether whether I'm completely wrong about the West not having a proper religion and proper. responsible adult male leadership, because we are heading towards war. The war machine is trundling our way.
And our, in that sentence, are you part of the West? You do yourself as a member of the West, protector of the West?
Well, yes, I mean a lot of immigrants are also invested in the West. I mean, I think anybody living in the West wants better government, and a lot of people feel that our ruling classes don't really care about us. They don't really care what we think. They just pretend to care, right? That's why they keep wanting to lower the age of voting and age of consent, and give us more drugs and more sex to distract us and that kind of
Okay,
thing.
yeah, I don't want to get into that particular Claireism, but I do want to get into another Claireism, which is your absolute love for America and the founding fathers, and you love pointing out the fact that they were uh, not Trinitarians and all of that. Is that, do you do that because you see America as being the exception to your rule of all Trinitarian countries going to shit, and your sort of cope for why America did not go to shit as quickly as the rest of Europe, the rest of Christendom, is because they weren't as Trinitarian? Is that sort of the thesis?
No, no, no. I'm just saying, because all these European countries, the Western Europe in NATO, they take their orders from Washington. And I mean, that's why they spent all that money on the war in Ukraine to try and weaken Russia, and we have to pay for it, or our children and grandchildren, if we if we have any, if we haven't already been persuaded to die, childless and gay and transgender. So I'm saying the problem is coming from America, and Americans are known for not having a proper religion. And then it goes back to PVK talking about Christian nationalism, and what is the Church of America. And I'm saying the problem is all these fake Christians in their ruling classes, and the fake Christians at the bottom. It's sort of, they pretend to be Christian, but if you ask them a real question about Christianity, they don't want to know, they don't want to talk about it, or they talk some nonsense like Luke, and then refuse to defend their argument. And Luke even said, "Yeah, I post and ghost. I post and ghost." Which means that he doesn't really want a serious discussion. And I'm saying that this is the wrong way. It's sort of like, well, if you really believe in this thing, you have to go around, as I do. Like, well, if you don't think I said if you think I said something stupid, tell me what it is. If any of my premises are false, or my argument's illogical, then point out which one it is, and nobody says anything, which suggests to me that I am, basing my arguments on sound principles, except that they don't like it.
Every single time you answer a question, your answer ends with "how nobody engages you correctly," whilst you're
Okay,
to
which
engage you.
which arguments have I lost?
No, I'm saying that I was asking a different question, but every single question, regardless of what it is, always comes back to how you don't get engaged with correctly. But going back to the question I actually did ask, is
Hmm.
so your thesis is that the American does have a religion, and the religion is of its for the founding fathers, which is a non-Trinitarian religion, correct?
No, I'm saying America does not have a religion, so Americans can't say. Um, There is no agreement on what a Christian is. This is the thing, because Jehovah's Witnesses, they're Christian. Mormons are also a category of Christianity, and I notice that amongst Christians, they don't want to talk about these things
Okay.
because they
What's
don't want
what's
to
the,
argue
what's
with
the
each other.
relevance? What's the relevance of the founding fathers being non-Trinitarians? That's what I'm
Because,
trying.
because I've been saying that the American Republic represents the first attempt by Europeans to distance themselves from the institution of absolute monarchy, and absolute monarchy was always supported by Christianity.
Okay, okay, that makes more sense now. And how do you rate their success? Like, is it the further away they moved from Trinitarian, the more successful they are, or did they not go far enough into secular Quranism, which it would really be great?
Well, I'm actually saying that they were really secular Quranists, but they didn't dare say it. And people like Sam Tideman, I mean, the most interesting thing to discuss about his predicament is whether he is even Christian, because a lot of people have said you're not even Christian. You've taken yourself outside the fold of Christianity by denying the divinity of Jesus, right? I mean that's what people say to him, and and I guess he blocks me because I'm saying, well, you're really more Muslim than Christian, and he doesn't want to hear that again.
Well, I'm sure it's been told that by many Christians, so not something, that's a conversation he wants to keep having. But anyway, so yeah, your point is that the founding fathers were secular Quranists. That was the first attempt of secular Quranism. But why did it not work then? Because America has gone the way of Europe as well, hasn't it? Liberalism's taken over America, and the lack of states religion was embedded into the constitution by this, as you call them, so-called secular Quranists. How do you square that circle?
Well, the First Amendment says America the government cannot establish any religion, and I'm saying secular Quranism is not a religion; it's just a legal system. Because and I am not Muslim, so I think I'm the perfect fit, and it uncompromisingly supports the First Amendment, and you can find evidence in the Quran that well, you can't find any verse that condemns um, blasphemy, right? Even the mention of apostates is like they don't get any this life punishment. God will deal with them when after they are deceased. So there was never any Quranic punishment for people who subsequently deny Islam. And this is an important thing to know. But I know people will say, "Oh, but what about these countries that introduce all these blasphemy laws, like Pakistan?" And I remember talking to this Pakistani who said, "Well, they came from Britain. The British came over, took over, and gave us these blasphemy laws, which are still part of our law." Gosh, what are you doing?
Sorry, I should mute while I'm opening and shutting freezers. I'm cooking, so
Oh, right.
you keep going. I'm listening.
Yeah. So really, if you're shopping around for a religion, you want your religion to be easy to believe, and people say things like facts and logic is supreme, and and even people um who defend their religion will sort of say, well, my religion is more in harmony with facts and logic than your religion, right? That's how they argue, even if it's not objectively true. But people, atheists, say, well, I'll believe in God when I see Him, kind of thing. But we don't. A way of winning the argument is to say that people with religion tend to do better than people without religion, and the best religions would be the ones that have divine revelation, i.e., books that claim to have laws from God, and the people who adhere to them keep their identity better. Because we all know what Jews are supposed to do: keep the Sabbath, avoid pork and blah blah. And we know what Muslims are not supposed to do. And like Christians, well, they can do anything, right? And that's why it's hard for Christianity to even keep its well, it has no codified
Earlier,
principles.
earlier you mentioned how someone was strawmanning you, and so I was like, so you do know what strawman is, and then you just said Christians can do anything. There's no rules for Christianity, and that's not true because you mentioned earlier that there's a whole fight in biblical domination over the gay marriage thing. So there is always this tension that you never cease to well, you never acknowledge it in Christianity, but in Islam and Judaism. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. The other thing is talking about your hypocrisy, or the flaws in your logic, is because you don't embody the arguments that you're making because you're an agnostic. You just said that everyone has to find a religion for themselves. And you stop the search by claiming, oh, I don't know. I can't make a decision. I'm such a coward. I don't want to make a wrong decision. So I'm going to stay in the agnostic position, which is a cowardly thing to do. But you admonish others for doing the same thing when it comes to their lack of, or Christians, their lack of conviction in their principles. You see that? Do you see that
No, but
arguments?
no, because if I converted to Islam, then secular Quranism would just um, lose its most important argument, which is
Okay.
that secular Quranism is more important to me than you know any my theoretical afterlife,
Oh,
because
so
because it secular Quranism has to be considered not a religion to not go against the First Amendment,
well,
which forbids the establishment of any religion.
if it's considered not a religion, does that not leave room for the problem to start again with people not having a conviction of their principles the way you'd like them to, because they're not religious, they're just secular, which makes it a lot less likely that they'll be actually principled. They could just be faking it to make it the way people do in a secular world anyway.
Well, that's always going to happen because, hypocrites will be hypocrites, and there will be lots of people who will go along to get along to, have marriage opportunities, career opportunities, and, be mainstream. They don't want to, be a group that's, a despised minority.
I'm gonna start banging pots again. I'm gonna mute. You go on for a bit. I'm just still listening.
Okay, I guess I'll let Marcha on and hope he's proper. Hello, Marcha. You going to say something, or you going to?
Hello,
I've
Claire.
got my mouse. Oh, hello.
Hello, Teo, traitor.
Hello, Marcha. You came on a
Today I've
clear
woken up and
stream.
I've chosen dialogue. I invite Pick and Choose to join this dialogue. Come on in, Pick and Choose.
I hope he comes. So, you don't usually go by Marcha, do you? I'm trying to work out who you
He
are.
almost exclusively goes by Marcha.
Okay. Well, he's never posted on any of mine, and I haven't encountered him much. But welcome, welcome. Are there any points you'd like to make or questions you'd like to ask?
Thank you for that welcome. No, I'd just like to listen for now, and maybe I can organically slip in.
I've got a question for you, Marcha. See if I can organically slip you back into the conversation. What do you make of Claire's complaint about the lack of conviction and principled people in this little corner? How do you see it?
What do I make of it? Well, I think you know what I make of it. I think there's a well-intentioned but ultimately mistaken understanding of how best to enter into dialogue with others. And these mistakes inevitably lead to all sorts of cyclical, patterned misunderstandings. And I think Claire
Can you
actually,
give an example of one?
an example, although there are many. Give me a second, I'm drinking my coffee.
I'm sorry I interrupted you, but do please continue. I have this habit sometimes to stop myself from forgetting what I was going to say.
There is, I think, something kind of laudable in trying to get people to relate to each other. I mean, there's a component to dialogue that does involve charity and the extension of grace.
Hmm.
I would say, though, that this is often pursued in a ham-fisted way. Often there's a kind of imposition awkward to the flow of dialogue. that often takes place. You must have a randos before I can trust you, or something like this. In other words,
Mm-hmm.
there's actually a lot of kind of fastidious kind of preciousness happening that need not take place when we can just try our best to respect each other in the midst of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the ways in which we can do that is by listening to each other earnestly and
Mm-hmm.
sincerely, listening to each other what we have to say. Part of
Mm-hmm.
that listening involves this dialectical process of getting to the meaning of what we're saying, the relationships between the terms that we're using, to make sure that we're authentically understanding each other and we can move together in a shared activity of pursuing the truth. And I don't, that's a skill. There's a virtue that's necessary to pursue that kind of enterprise. And there's some skills involved too. It's difficult.
Yes,
It's
and it
difficult.
takes leadership, and not everybody can withstand the full glare of the truth. And leadership has to be given, through the media. Like, oh, I saw this program, documentary, on the BBC or whatever, and then it becomes more acceptable to talk about it.
Could you elaborate? Are you talking about the?
Well, just any.
Mhm.
Um, I keep going on about being on Tucker Carlson, which I know people mock me for it being a forlorn hope, but I'm saying, were I to be interviewed on mainstream media, then what I'm proposing is would become more acceptable to discuss, because the powers that be are saying, yes, it's okay to discuss this, but you have to think negatively about it. But that would be um, a step upwards, in my view. I certainly don't expect people to agree with me immediately, but yeah, to be platform. But then you have this expression, no platform. You can't even say this thing. You can't even discuss this subject because it's heresy. You know.
Uh, I'm not terribly sure what you're referring to. I think you're alluding to something that on TLC, right? You've been kind of muzzled on certain topics, right?
Well, to be fair to PVK, he does actually say what I'm on about, Sharia, whatever. But what I'm trying to say is that for my ideas to actually take hold in the Western consciousness, I have to be platformed by MSM, mainstream media, and this is what I'm working towards. And in a way, I see why Megan doesn't want
That
to
was a great
platform me and say,
example, Claire. Sorry to interrupt, but not really sorry. Of the listening thing not quite happening. Because what you're saying is what you were saying before Marcha got here, and it's got nothing to do with what Marcha said. It's pretty funny to watch.
What's funny?
I didn't catch what Taya
What
was saying.
What's
Um,
funny is that Marcha's response to my question and your response to Marcha's response have nothing related. You're just saying what you were always saying before Marcha came onto the stream, which is that you want to be a platform and get to Tucker Carlson. But to link it to what Marcia said, I guess I should ask a better question, which is how does the lack of principled TLC stuff that you're complaining about, Claire, how's that stopping you from getting to Tucker Carlson? And why are you going through beta mails as you see them to try to
Well,
get to email?
if I could, I was trying to, first extend an olive branch to Claire because I think she is identifying a pattern of misfunction. On the other hand, in the midst of the dysfunction, there are some strategies that you, Claire, can take to try to
mhm,
move forward as best you can.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and so one of those strategies may involve, you basically, the point is to try to actually enter it into a shared activity. oftentimes in these dysfunctional kind of patterns, people are just kind of monologuing at each other. And so what's it going to take? Someone's going to have to exercise a little bit of grace and forbearance with the other person to move together into a place that is more common. And so one of the strategies that I recommend, and that I don't see you taking, but perhaps you may disagree, is to try to meet them at their level. What are they interested in? What are the themes that predominate the discussions that they like? And see how you can
I do. I
move from a
mean,
place of common ground um, onto other places. So, like, do you know Ian McGilchrist? Do you know Jonathan Pajot? Do you know some of their work? Did you talk about some of that stuff that they're interested in? George MacDonald or whomever.
I like to think I have already acted as you've advised by talking to Chris Howard, and I always make a point of talking about something that he has been talking about. I don't come in, descend in a parachute and change the subject to what I want to talk about. I always refer to something he was already talking about
Yes,
to make it a
Claire,
dialogue.
I do want to give you that credit and also call you out a little bit. You only come into our live stream or conversation if to continue, if there's a topic that you find interesting, you can add to. However, when
Yeah,
you do come into that live stream, inevitably, what you find interesting about said topic is that there's a way in which you can revert it back to your thesis, which makes sense,
sure.
but that's still a part of it.
Well, yes, but at least it's relevant, right? And so I do listen to people. I mean, I will give Luke some credit with his ridiculous rules. Telling you know this, oh, you must steel man somebody's ideas, etc., etc. And yes, it is a good idea to set to do this. So what you're saying is, and then you give the best possible um, um, expression of what the other person was trying to say, and then they can't possibly agree with you, I mean possibly disagree with you, and then you create a good feeling of mutual understanding, and then you can go on to other subjects. Yes, I think I do that. But I suppose a lot of people maybe my ideas are too well known, and it's like, well, we don't want to hear from her. And I'm saying, okay, you don't want to hear from me, but have you won the argument? Shouldn't you care if you're Christian and believe in the afterlife, about whether you are guilty of the mortal sin of idolatry? And I think a lot of people say, no, we don't care. We just don't. Probably because they never believed that God exists to punish anyone for anything. And that's when I say, oh, but that you're just a hypocrite. And I guess they don't like hearing that either. And then I hope people will discuss the nature and purpose of religion, and I have been totally unsuccessful in starting a philosophical conversation about that, even amongst friends who are supposed to be well intentioned towards me, that they're not actually capable of having that conversation.
Hey, Claire, I hear you. Um, I think there's probably a lot of what you're saying that's um, totally fair. Um, Unfortunately, I have to leave and get ready for mass. If you're still
Okay.
streaming, I'll try to hop back on. But thanks for the warm welcome. I will see you later.
Thank you for coming. It's much appreciated, your advice and your well, very nice voice. I will now go back to the comments and yes, alpha males. I'm just saying. Yes, what was I say? I was saying beta males must have an easy way of choosing their alpha male leader, and therefore, they have to, dismiss somebody if she's female, if he's a bachelor, if he's gay, if his children are not yet grown up. So here are four categories for beta males to choose their principled moral leader. He may still be, a terrible villain, but at least you will have you will be able to dismiss the categories I've mentioned, which is bachelors, um, gay men, and women, and married fathers whose children are not old enough. Because what you want is a an alpha male with adult children who are a credit to him, who has not been divorced by his wife under the rules of no fault divorce. So these are categories that are easily understood. That was commonly understood in previous decades and ages. And I'm only telling you what you ought to know. I'm just a warning and reminder. And I suppose I'm just aghast at all these attempts to show that they don't know what I'm talking about, that I don't know what I'm talking about. And I guess I'm in the position of saying, but you said, or your ancestor said, I got it from somewhere, I read it from somewhere, and it was in English, it was in some, famous novel or famous publication or something like that. And now I'm having these people who are obviously suffering from dementia or amnesia. So when Megan and Stephanie were talking to me, I had hoped that, as a woman, I like to think that theory women take on a leadership position in this, because all they have to admit is that it would be nice if more women could find marriageable men who will take their marriage vow seriously, who will become good husbands and fathers, and society would therefore improve. That was all I was hoping for, and therefore unmarried parents should be treated as sex offenders. And I also said, well, obviously I'm not going to, inflict corporal punishment of 100 lashes on people who've already had their illegitimate offspring. I'm going to have a period of grace so that even if secular Quranism came into force today, which is the 19th of July, it will be the 18th of July 2027 that being an unmarried parent with children born without a marriage license, only then would you suffer from public corporal punishment. That was one of the things I do remember saying, and then I talked about a register of repentant unmarried parents and unrepentant unmarried parents. So I'm saying, okay, you're one of those people, and you've got, a whole bunch of unmarried parents and sorry, illegitimate offspring, and then you could, in order to give your children a better start in life, you could say that you don't. There's no formal process. You just register to be on the list of repentant unmarried parents, and then your children go to B plus school, and which makes it higher status than the B school, and we all know what the B stands for, right? And of course, the A schools will have children who are the children of married parents, and this system of status and rights and will send the right message very, very quickly indeed to what women must do if they would like to be married mothers. But under my system, there would be the option of being a licensed prostitute working in licensed brothels. So the price of sex is not going to suddenly go sky high, and because that would actually cause violence. Because people who expect a certain price to, be it sex or food or fuel, it would obviously cause difficulties if the price of it became unaffordable. Hey, Mike,
Hey, how's it going, Claire?
it's going well. You've
I
lost
see.
weight.
I see you're on. Yeah, I'm trying to get down to
You're
one meal a
looking
day. Plus, I shaved my beard, so
you're looking
thank you.
good.
So, I wanted to get back to your misinformation on blasphemy that the British somehow just brought over their blasphemy laws. I gave you 3 examples in the chat of people put to death for blasphemy long before the British were around Arabia or even India.
Well, these Muslims, they do break their rules, and they still don't understand or don't care to discuss the difference between being a republic and being an absolute monarchy. And these Gulf Arabs are basically absolute monarchies, aren't they?
Sure, but I'm talking about. Sorry, I
And
turned the background music down, so I may have missed some of what you said there. But I was talking about the blasphemy laws and the examples I gave you from the.
I'm afraid I didn't quite manage to read them
If
properly.
you scroll down, you'll see a guy was
but in a
killed
way,
in 750 for blasphemy. Another guy in 922. Fairly famous Sufi saint who said, "I am the truth."
and was he living under an absolute
He
monarchy
was living under a caliphate.
in the Ottoman Empire?
Yeah.
Yeah, but caliphs should not be absolute monarchs. There were only 4 rightly guided caliphs, and they were not kings.
Okay. Well, so why did Abu Bakr fight the Rita Wars if there's no apostasy laws?
I'm afraid I don't know this character.
He's the first rightly guided caliph. Maybe I'm saying his name wrong.
Abu what?
Bakr, however you
What's
say
his
that.
name? Oh, Abu Bakr.
Yeah, the guy,
Okay.
the ISIS guy took his name. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
Oh,
So he fought the apostate wars right after Muhammad died. Some people said, well, we don't want to be in this religion anymore. We pledged our allegiance to Muhammad, not this guy. We're leaving. So he attacked him, killed him.
well, the point is that chapter 2, verse 256 of the Quran
Right.
supports
Let there be no
the First
compulsion in
Amendment.
religion. We all know it's well versed. It's well cited by Muslims.
Yeah,
But every Muslim I've ever talked to says that
they don't know about that verse.
They love bringing it up, but they say it's about conversion. Once you're in Islam, you can't leave. That's what apostasy is. They're saying you can't force people to convert,
but
which of course the Muslims have done throughout their history.
But the apostates are not executed according to the Quran, because Allah will deal with them in their afterlife.
Yet Abu Bakr did execute him, and you just called him a rightly guided caliph.
Well, that was presumably because he wasn't an absolute monarch, because the 4 rightly guided caliphs did not inherit their position as caliph from their father. So that meant that they're not absolute monarchs.
Right, okay. They're elected absolute rulers.
Though probably they did a few things wrong.
Okay. What's the difference between an absolute monarch and an absolute ruler? I mean, dictators aren't monarchs. So you're for an absolute dictatorship.
Well, the thing about dictators is that they don't have an automatic right to bequeath their leadership position to a male family member. Well, they don't, but a monarch, I mean, the
Who
rules
would
of
care about
succession.
that caveat about whether or not they get to bequeath something, or the next ruler, whether it's hereditary or not? The point is, when you're ruling, if you have absolute power, like dictators do, or like caliphs do, it's bad. We don't want it. You can call it secular, whatever you
Well,
want, but
exactly.
it's not going to be that.
Well, that is the difference in the position of Charles I and and an American president who could be removed for high crimes
Sure,
and misdemeanors. I mean, it's actually stated that, yeah, if you find him guilty of these things, you can remove him. Well, there's no such thing for absolute monarchs. You actually have to kill him
absolutely. But
or subject him to a trial whose authority he doesn't recognize, such as Cromwell with Charles I.
right. But again, I don't know what this has to do with the structure of society, other than you want to get rid of hereditary kings. All for it. I think every American is. I think even the Europeans are for it. Aren't pretty much all the European monarchs just figureheads? None of them have any real power. But anyway, are the Gulf states monarchs? Of course. MSB, can he behead Khashoggi or whatever the guy's name was? Sure. Khashoggi, yeah.
Khashoggi. Hmm.
Yeah. But what's that got to do with the structure you
Yeah.
want to set up based on Islam? Islam's a terrible religion full of terrible laws, including you're lashing fornicators 100 times. It's not going to go over in America.
Well, that's because you're a
That's
fornicator,
true.
and most Westerners are. But the point is that there
Exactly.
are rules in the Quran. So when your leader breaks those rules, assuming you're not too afraid to challenge him and say, "Look, Caliph, you've broken the rule, and we're going to remove you because you're obviously not a rightly
Okay.
guided
Name
Caliph."
name name who
Um,
that's happened to.
well, they were absolute monarchs after the four
I
rightly guided
understand. And who's been
caliphs. So
removed?
this
Who's been
implies,
removed? Muwati or whatever, the fifth guy. He put his son in, Yazidi the first, attacked at the Battle of Al Harar. They raped 1,000 women, killed 70 of the companions. He wasn't removed.
yeah.
There was they
So
call him the Ghaffur Khalifa, under the Ottomans, who ordered all the Janissaries killed because the guy before him tried to do some reforms and the Janissaries rose up against him. So when this guy got in power, the first thing he did was kill all the Janissaries. I mean, you had the Mad Caliph, who destroyed the Church of the Holy
okay,
Sepulchre,
but they
however you spell that. 1009. He would just
okay.
behead people in his court.
Eventually,
They didn't rise up and
eventually, eventually, the caliphate was dissolved, wasn't it? Last
100 years ago, yeah.
century,
Last year,
because it
100
was
years ago,
yeah,
1924.
yeah,
Yeah, the Young Turks got rid of it.
and
And good
you know
riddance.
the great thing about these rules is that you can determine causation, and then you can go down the list of things that these Ottoman emperors ignored.
Okay, so what is the causation of the Rita Wars? Back to the first,
I
you're
don't
calling them a
know.
rightly.
Okay, I don't know what those wars are.
Okay, so Muhammad died, right? Ali's in washing his body. He thinks he's supposed to be the Khalifa. Omar, well, it's not in the Quran, the hadith of the pen, or the calamity of Thursday. On his deathbed, Muhammad asked for pen and paper so he could dictate something. Omar says, we don't need that. We have the Quran. So Ali and Muhammad were from a different clan than Omar and Abu. And so they usurped Ali. Well, he's in washing Muhammad's body, preparing him for burial. Omar nominates Abu Bakr, or however you say his name, to become Caliph.
Bakar. Hmm.
Bakr, okay. And a bunch of the bigger houses, it's like Game of Thrones, the bigger houses pledged allegiance, their abaya, to him. And Ali comes out, and next thing you know, he's not the dude. He and Aisha went around house to house getting people to try to change their mind, and they're like, well, we already gave our pledge. We can't do anything about it. So he kind of let it go.
Well, the
But so
point is,
then some people said, we're not following this new guy. We pledged our allegiance to Muhammad. Muhammad's dead. We don't like the new guy. We're not going to be Muslims anymore. So he started a war over it.
mhm.
So
Okay,
so much
well,
for let there be no compulsion in religion.
if you have rules, you're supposed to follow them, and if you don't follow them, bad stuff happens. It means that bad stuff happened because you didn't follow them. And obviously, these Muslims to this day do not want to talk about monarchy and republic because the Gulf kingdoms are monarchies, and I
I
would
don't know
expect.
what YouTube you watch. A lot of the Muslims are against the monarchies in the Gulf states.
Yeah, and they're scared of their death warrant being signed by their absolute monarch because they know about what happened to Khashoggi.
Right. Well, I'm talking about the ones who are in Britain there. Your boy Mohammed Hijab, Ali Dawa, Abbas, Imran, EF Dawa guys, the Dawa guys. They'll talk out. They'll speak out against a monarchy. They won't do anything about it. It's just like they speak out against Israel. I don't know how ISIS managed to raise 40,000 fighters from around the world, but none of these brave Muslims who want to stand up for their oppressed brothers did anything against the Jews. They let them just demolish Gaza. I mean, these guys are all bark, no bite. That's obvious, but
Well, I guess I'm trying to do their work for them.
I guess so. You're the real Dawa person out there, the real Da'i. But again, you're saying Islam has no blasphemy laws, and you said it was the British who brought them in. Again,
That was what my Pakistani contact
that's what
told
the
me.
Pakistanis always say. Oh, these are left over from the British, from British India. Well, the British did bring blasphemy laws with them, obviously, because the Christians have blasphemy laws. But so get rid of them, right? You remember the governor who was assassinated by his bodyguard in Pakistan after the one Christian woman was killed for drinking from a water cup or something. There's been what?
I don't know that story.
So probably 15 years ago, one of the famous blasphemy cases in Pakistan. Well, they've never executed anybody by the government because.
Maybe Asia
There you go.
Bibi,
Yeah.
I think.
So she's beaten to death by a mob outside the courthouse or something. And so one of the governors said, maybe we need to revisit these blasphemy laws. So his bodyguard kills him.
Well,
who was the national hero in Pakistan? The bodyguard.
Pakistan is a democracy.
So they claim.
Can't be trusted because, well, I'm saying there is a problem with political parties. In America itself, I mean, you can trace all the bad things that happened to America because of the party system that Washington warned you guys against. No political parties, it will be the end of you, my fellow Americans. And you just carried on, and the Civil War broke out. And I guess some of you are not over it yet.
There's very few the South will rise again people left anymore. And certainly in the next 20 years, most of them will be dead. But there are some Southerners who think the South will rise again. You know what the true Southerner calls the Civil War? The War of Northern Aggression. Have you ever asked somebody?
Well, that's a way.
If they ever call the Civil War, the War of Northern Aggression, those are the South will rise again people.
Well, yes, but and if you'd already been Muslim, then slavery wouldn't have been an issue because although God forbade a whole bunch of things, he did not forbid prostitution or slavery. So, yeah, you could even say that.
How
That's
is prostitution not forbidden in 24:2?
It says, "Do not compel your slave girls into prostitution if they wish to remain chaste."
Yeah, no, that's in the fourth.
But if they say
fourth surah, the light Al Nur, the 24th, the 100 lashes. That's for those who commit zina, fornication.
No, I think it's 434, isn't it? It's 434.
24:2. But what you're talking about is 434. I'm talking about 24:2. That's for the fornicator.
Yeah, the 100 lashes.
That's for the fornicator and fornicatress. Lash each of them with 100 stripes, and let not compassion with you keep you from carrying out this law of God, and let a group of believers witness their chastisement. It clearly forbids sex outside of marriage. So prostitution.
But the red light district is an American thing, isn't
What's
it?
that?
Is it an American thing? The red light district. You have this sort of red light thing in certain states. So it's saying yes, you can have extramarital sex, but only only here, but if you do it elsewhere, you're in trouble.
Well, Nevada is the only place I know of with legal prostitution. You know, the Bunny Ranch outside of Vegas and
Mhm.
Reno.
Mhm.
I thought the red light district came out of Amsterdam. They certainly have a big red light district. I was in Germany last May. Where is it? Frankfurt. I went to walk through their red light district. They have a,
Yeah, there's this super brothel called Pasha, right?
I don't know. I didn't stop at any
I
of them.
think, and it's got more than one branch. Anyway, um, these. I mean, the thing is, neither the Bible nor the Quran forbid prostitution. I mean, there's actually the book of Jeremiah saying, "Jews, you're supposed to be the bride of God, and look at you, you behave like prostitutes, and you sell yourselves to passers by under the shady tree, but God will take you back." Right? I mean, all these references that seem to say that prostitutes are redeemable.
Yeah. Nobody's saying they're not redeemable, but how do you get if fornication is forbidden, paying someone to fornicate you has to, by the transitive property, has to be forbidden as well. To say,
Well, well, the transaction has to be clear, right? So if you were to visit a prostitute, you'd know how much you have to pay. But if you picked up a girl in a bar,
it's got nothing to do with
you
anything,
would think
Claire.
she's giving it to you for free. Yes, it does, because the terms of the transaction have to be clear. So fornication, in singles bars, is the idea that the sex is free, but it's full of hidden costs that might just happen when she turns up on your doorstep 3 months later saying, "Mike, I'm carrying your baby,"
Okay.
and you have to
So
pay.
when visiting a prostitute, does one fornicate? Okay.
Yes.
So if
And if you're, I
fornication
guess,
is forbidden, how is prostitution therefore not forbidden?
because under certain circumstances, it is clear that if you pay the woman for her services, she can't turn up at your doorstep, on your doorstep 6 months
Again,
later saying, "Mike,
it's
I'm
got nothing
carrying
to
your
do with
baby."
anything.
You pay. No, because then you would be saying, "I paid you for your services to me as a prostitute in that brothel. I certainly never intended to father a child by you, and if you're pregnant with my child, it's not my problem. I'm not married to you." And there should be a law saying only men are only required to support their legitimate offspring. Then it will be clear what women must not do and what they cannot expect.
Right. But we're not talking about how the way you want it to be. We're talking about what the Quran says. So read
Well, I'm
24
saying the
2.
Quran supports what I'm
Well,
saying.
read
And
24
actually,
2 to me.
it does say 100 lashes for illicit sex. Yes.
Okay. For fornication. Okay.
Yeah.
So how is
And,
prostitution then
and
still
I'm
legal?
saying,
You're paying for someone
because
to
if it's in a
fornicate with
licensed
you.
brothels, it means that slavery and prostitution have to be legal, right? So let's say you own a bunch of slave girls and they said, "Mike, we don't want to be cleaning toilets. We will earn our manumission quicker if we work for you as licensed prostitutes in your licensed brothel." And and you and it makes sense,
Again,
because if you let them
you're
become
making
streetwalkers, they'll just run
You're
away.
making an agreement again with people that is against Allah's law. It says you can't fornicate.
No, it's
You
not,
have to
because
be married to
of
have
that
sex with
verse.
someone, or they have to be your concubine, that whom your right hand possesses. Those are the only women allowed to
No,
mother.
there's no concubine in. It doesn't mention concubine at all.
24 or 424. I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay, I have to go to Quran, Corpus Quran, that has seven translations of every verse. Okay, so you want me to look up 24:2, and I know what it says already. It's 100 lashes for illicit sex. So we have to go to
Where's
the
this
verse
word
that
innocent
says,
come from?
Innocent?
read where any of those translations say innocent sex.
Illicit. I said illicit sex. Sex that you don't have because you don't have a marriage license, which thankfully Americans still talk about. You call what the British call their marriage certificate marriage license, right? And this means that piece of paper licenses a couple to have sex and children.
Well, no, it licenses them
Okay.
to have certain benefits under the law, as in like divorce and uh,
Well,
visitation rights in
yeah.
hospitals.
Well,
That's why the
you can't
gays
get
were.
divorced.
What's that?
Well, you can't be divorced if you're not even married.
No, I'm saying when you get a marriage license, in the case of a divorce, it grants you certain rights and laws. And then there's California has a common marriage law. If you're married for 10 years, even if you don't have a marriage license, or if you cohabitate for 10 years, you become a common marriage. And then they also have, the reason Cruz divorced, what was his last wife's name? Anyway, like at 9.5 years, because if you're married more than 10 years, different laws kick in. The marriage license is just a registration with the state. It's not a license to fornicate. Anybody can fornicate. It's not even the gays. It's codified in the law. Consenting adults can do what they want. It's called freedom.
Right. Well, no, because there was a time when Europeans didn't put up with unmarried parents, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was all forbidden. And
Yeah.
if I'm just trying to find the name, was it Mimi Rogers?
No,
No.
she's the mother.
Nicole
No,
Kidman.
no.
Nicole
After
Kidman.
her, the younger girl, dark-haired one. No, not
No.
Penelope Cruz. She was in Batman and
Okay.
Robin as the reporter or something. Holmes, Katie Holmes.
Well, that's a terrible thing. I don't think you should be deemed to be married even though you're not, kind of thing, because it does kind of incentivize men to divorce their wives, right? And find a new model or be saddled with the old thing.
Okay, I still don't get how you're going to interpret the Quran as saying prostitution's allowed when it forbids
Okay,
sex
you must
outside of
know the
marriage.
verse that I'm talking about, which is that the
Yeah,
one
that says
saying,
don't force them into prostitution.
yeah. So if you don't force
Which-
them, then it's
Right.
okay.
Yeah, that's a strange reading of it. Muslims will say, well, the context
Yeah,
was that
I know because they're hypocrites.
they're going to say most guys, when they took women as war booty, other than having sex with them themselves, then turned them out to make money in the past. The pagans did it. So we weren't going to do that. So he says, don't force them to do it. It doesn't then imply you're allowed to allow them to do it. That's a bizarre interpretation. I get
Well,
it.
I'm
He
saying that,
semantically argued that
yeah,
because they
yeah,
said don't force them to means they can they can volunteer to.
yes.
But then when you turn around and read the Quran, you're supposed to read it holistically. If it says you can't fornicate, then you can't fornicate for money. It doesn't say don't fornicate for money. Therefore, these are bizarre readings.
Well, it does say do not force your slave girls into
Right.
prostitution, right? So it
Yeah, it would have
means
been much better if you said do not allow them, do not force or allow them. Then you wouldn't be confused. But the Quran is so poorly
no,
written,
it
it's
is
open to vast interpretations.
no,
That's part of the problem is
it's
adopting it
fine.
as your
It's fine.
basis for law.
No, I'm happy with legalizing prostitution because
I
the
got no problem
problem.
with it either, but the
What?
Muslims aren't going to be. I have no problem with legalized prostitution. I'm a
Oh,
libertarian.
good. Oh, good.
But
So obviously, most of these Muslims are prostitutes, and they can't. Most of them are not lawyers. Most of them haven't even read their own book in their own language. So I'm saying the reason why you have to have this category of women who supply sex to men as prostitutes is to discourage women from being confused with prostitutes. So you're either expected to become a married mother or If not, you're going to be a prostitute. But currently, the biggest group of women supplying sex to men is the fornicatress. And this confuses the women who are obviously disappointed that nobody wants to marry them after they've been having so much sex with all these men. And it makes men not want to marry men who've been, around, gone round the block more than once. So, women with high body counts. So you've got to kind of make these rules clear. So any vaguely intelligent adolescent female will say, no, of course I don't want to be a prostitute. I want to be a married mother. And in order to become a married mother, I must not be a slut, and I must not put out. Just because a man is asking me nicely to have sex with him, I must keep my legs crossed, or I will get knocked up and be lashed 100 times per illegitimate birth.
Understood. All right, Claire, I got to be somewhere at 1 o'clock. Always a
That, that,
pleasure to speak with you. I'm going to give you a
all
homework
right.
assignment. See if you can find the All in the Family clip. Do you know All in the Family?
What's
The
that?
TV show, All in the Family?
All in the family. All in the family. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Archie Bunker.
It rings a bell.
Yeah,
Yes.
in the 70s. So he was unemployed,
Uh-huh.
and he goes to the unemployment office, and he's talking to the guy, and he's like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
the white guys can't find work because of the Puerto Ricans or whatever's going on. And on he goes, yeah, and even the hookers are out of work because the college girls are giving it away for free.
Oh gosh, yes. Did he say that?
Yeah,
That's
see,
terrible.
Google maybe
Way back then.
Archie Bunker at unemployment office.
Okay, I'll look that up.
You
Thanks,
can keep
Mike.
that clip and pop it out. But yeah.
Okay.
All right. Have a
I'll
good
do
one,
that.
y'all.
Take care. Thank you for coming.
Make sure you get paid if you fornicate.
Yes. Okay, I'll just have one final look at the comments. Oh, thank you to Freak for sticking around. A textpat recognizes Mike Malzahn. Good. Lisa Lake, I know from X. Welcome, welcome. So I'm glad people understand the stark difference between being a married mother and a licensed prostitute. So if you make it really clear to these women, they will not be screwing around, and the quality of masculinity will improve. And the quality of femininity will also improve, because all women have to do really is to make men want to be men. And in order to make them want to be men, we have to kind of big them up and fluff them up and do the girly thing and make them feel that they want to pay for our shit. Okay? That's all. That's all we have to do. And this is certainly easier than screwing around and going around the cock carousel in your 20s and being in a hurry in your 30s and maybe finding yourself high and dry in your 40s. Okay, deja vu you. I've actually... I've been talking for over 2 hours, so I'm not going to be doing a lecture on George Washington, except to advise everyone to do what George Washington streams on his farewell speech, and then you'll discover for yourself what he did say and how much of his advice has been ignored. In fact, I will be asking AI how many pieces of advice Washington gave, and then I'll have a list, and then people can work out the percentage, the fraction of what has been obeyed. Okay, I'm just going to make sure I haven't left out anybody's comments. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. I'm very grateful that Marcha came along and tactfully tried to give me a bit of advice about being nice. It's like I've tried being nice. I have, and it doesn't work. So you might, I always start off by being nice. I do. And when that doesn't work, I guess I have to up the ante. All right. Thank you all for coming and staying, and I hope you had fun. And I guess I'll be seeing you around.